we've got the same kind of problems at the federal level that the people at the state level have and the people at the county level have. None of us have enough resources to do what we need to do. We made a big mistake back in whenever we did the stimulus bill, and we didn't put all of that money into infrastructure. And that's why I voted against it. It was a huge mistake. And then what happened, because we spent $700 billion, there's a backlash not to spend any more money, so it actually hit us twice. You know, so now you can't get anybody to do anything because they're so upset about the stimulus. Huge mistake. Anyway, that's ancient history. So we almost ran out of money in whatever it was, July, August, right before we came home. And they did a patch that got us till next May. And I had had the transportation commissioner in my office the week before that. If we wouldn't have got that done, next year's contracts would have been, some of them canceled in Minnesota. So thank God we got that done, but it only gets us till May. And they came up with $10 billion. $1 billion of it they took out of the underground storage fund. I guess we owe that back to them, I guess, I don't know. And they took $9 billion and took it out of the general fund and paid for it with this pension smoothing, which I can't even really explain, but it was a gimmick, basically. To be able to say we didn't do anything, we didn't raise taxes, and we didn't increase the deficit. So anyway, so we got to May. So now we got to try to figure out how to do something by May to have a long-term plan at the federal level. And that's where we get to your problem at the state level. So Schuster, the chairman of the Transportation Committee in the House, he wants to do a 5-year plan. He is a reasonable guy, and if we had to work with him, we wouldn't have any problem getting this done. But what happened last year, one of the reasons we didn't get this done when we were working on it, he had a Tea Party primary. And he couldn't do the bill because if he did the bill in the way that he was going to do it, he'd have got taken out of the primary by the Tea Party. So that delayed us until his primary got over. So now what they're trying to do is figure out how they can break up this problem that they've got over on the Republican side. And it's really boiled down to kind of the same folks that gave us trouble with the Farm Bill. They want to split transit from highways. That's their main thing, a bunch of these Tea Party guys. And that's been the big problem, and that's what Schuster's problem is, that they wanted to split this thing, and he doesn't want to do that. Now this goes back to Reagan. This was done, the deal that we made on transit and highways was done under Reagan in the 80s. I think it was 85. There was a deal made, 40% went to transit, 60% went to highways. It's always been, but you've got this group now that wants to split them up. And I guess they want to take all the highway money, all the trust fund money, put it in the highways and give transit nothing. This is kind of what they want. Well, that's not going to fly. It's like what they tried to do with the Farm Bill, where they tried to take food stamps and split it off from the Farm Bill part of it. Well, I can guarantee you, if you did that, there would never be another Farm Bill. We wouldn't have crop insurance, we wouldn't have anything, because we wouldn't get enough urban people to support, you know, the package. And you got the same thing with highways. You know, if we didn't have the support from the urban people, we wouldn't have money to fix our rural highways. That's just the reality. So we all got to figure out a way to work together. And we haven't quite figured that out at this point. But I just, yesterday, was down in Arkansas. And I've been criticized for that too. But Jay Webb, who is the finest public servant that I've ever run into in all my time in government, is running for Congress in southern Arkansas. And I told him, if you run, I'll come and campaign for you. And I had promised yesterday was the day. And the governor didn't tell me he was going to have a diversion meeting and all this stuff. Anyway, so I went down there, and you know, I think he's going to win. He's a great guy. Yeah, but you remember him from the flood. He rebuilt Breckenridge, Ada, East Grand Forks, Roseau. He built the only time in the history of the United States we built a Catholic high school with public money in East Grand Forks. I said, James Lee, how did you do that? Well, I said, I just didn't tell Clinton. But anyway, So, but I came away from that with a really good idea that was given to him by Bill Clinton. And I'm going to go to work when I go back to Washington next week to try to put this into bill form. And that is, you know, this controversy where these people are moving overseas, you know, because of the tax system. And we have trillions of dollars locked up in profits overseas because if they bring it back, they're going to have to pay tax on it. We had a bill to try to forgive the taxes on it and all this sort of stuff. So Clinton came up with this idea, well, why don't we take $1 trillion, because I think it's like $15 trillion that's tied up in this or something, a lot of money. So why don't we take $1 trillion a year and have them, allow them to bring it back to the U.S. without paying taxes, but require them to take 10 to 15% of that and put it in an infrastructure bank that can be used to finance roads and all of this other stuff. It would be 100, 150 billion a year, which is what we need. And I think it's, the Republicans can support it. You know, if they get their, you know, the big business folks can support it, the Chamber of Commerce. I think it's got some real possibilities. So I'm going to go to work when I get back to Washington next week and work with some of my other colleagues to see if we can try to put something like that together. Because that's been the problem, trying to figure out how you come up with $100 billion without raising taxes. You know, and with the other thing they're trying to do, some of them, is they want to get rid of the federal gas tax and turn it all back to the state. So you guys can, you know, we now have 18.4 cents, so I guess the deal is that you'd raise the gas tax in Minnesota 20 cents, and then you're on your own. Well, I'm not sure that's such a great idea either. That's kind of like the food stamp thing. You know? So, but there's about 40 people in the House that that's what they want. They want to give it back to the state and get rid of the federal gas tax. You know? So that's the kind of things we're dealing with, and we're trying to come up with some innovative ideas. A guy named Delaney of Maryland has put a infrastructure bank bill in where he would have people sell bonds, you know, $100 billion of bonds a year to finance this. But I think this other idea is better. And I'm not sure you'd be able to sell $100 billion of bonds, given the current climate with the interest rates and everything. So anyway, so we got a lot of problems, but we're not going to give up. We're going to try to figure out how to come up with our share of the money, and then you guys can figure out how to come up with your share of the money, and everybody will be happy, right? That's the plan. So thank you all very much. I got to move on to another deal. So
great.
Sorry to take some time here.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we'll just start at the end. If you want to just introduce yourself, the office that you're running for, the area, the district, and then whatever you want to say about transportation, if you can keep it to like 2 minutes, because we got a lot of folks to go through, and then we'll have time for more Q&A after that. So, Commissioner?
I'm John Everett. I live about 20 miles south of Moorhead on the farm, and I'm County Commissioner in Clay County, running again. I've served 20 years as a commissioner in that district. And transportation, as I said before, we need money. It's we're just not ever going to keep up, and we're going to constantly get further behind unless we can get additional funding. And I applaud Congressman for that idea. I think that sounds like something that might work, and we need to find innovative ways to do that in Minnesota and the county as well. Thank you.
I'm Jim Meltich. I'm from Pelican Rapids, and I'm running for Minnesota House District 88. And we talk about infrastructure. Think about it this way: if we didn't have internet in Fargo Moorhead, how would business go? It wouldn't go very well. But I've kind of heard you guys reduce it down to individuals, but it's really a collection of all of our infrastructure and all of our businesses at every level is playing a role. I work for Cargill. We're having trouble getting rail cars. That can affect our ability to continue to grind corn. We grow a little corn around here, so it's kind of important to the economy. So yes, we'll probably use more trucks in order to augment that issue. At the end of the day, we're trying to do more with less, and there is no formula. You guys are all hitting it on the head. We just haven't paid our dues. And nobody likes taxes, but nobody likes potholes either. And we have to decide if your child was killed tonight, or your sibling, or your spouse, or your best friend, because the road wasn't safe. Was it worth it? Did we spend enough? I guarantee you, we would have had no trouble moving some dollars into when the bridge went in Minneapolis the next day. But guess what happened? Time goes, time goes, time goes. Oh, we don't want to do that. I'll put it in my political ad. I'll make that part of my I'm going to make you accountable. I'm going to make you unsafe if I don't bother to spend that money for that infrastructure. And it's not just about us. It's about all of us. Thank you.
Brian Graham, Minnesota House 4A candidate. I spent a majority of my weekend talking to a good friend of mine, Todd Grugel. He works for the Minnesota DOT. He's a former Shanley grad and Moorhead resident. Went to Moorhead State with me. And I mean, I agree with everything that's been said so far. We got to find transportation is, you know, one of the things that makes America great. It's the way we move commerce. It's you know, it's what makes us a stable place to do business. And so we have to figure out alternative ways. I was very interested to hear what Congressman Peterson had to say, because it was alternative methods of funding that I had not previously heard of that were very interesting, you know, creative ways to fund roads, which that's what we need to look at. We need to have independent thinkers that think creatively to come up with good ideas to fund the roads the best possible way we can today and into the future. And I've got more questions than I have answers today, because there's a lot to learn when it comes to roads, and I'm glad I came today. I had spent time on the MetroCog in many years, you know, with Wade and Lori, you know, learning about the local issues as it relates to roads. And I think they do a great job. I mean, all the people that we have working here locally have done a great job of planning and, you know, getting, you know, all the savings we can. And I agree with them. You can't just keep trying to squeeze savings out of it. So one of the interesting things that Wade's been working on for years in 4A is trying to reduce our urban footprint so that we have less roads to maintain and take care of in this area. And I think he's had a lot of interesting ideas over the last, I think I've known him for 12 years and talked to him about these ideas. And I think that, you know, that's another thing to think about, is how do we reduce our urban footprint in areas like Moorhead, and build from the core out in areas where we have land still to build on, and things where the roads already exist instead of building new roads. And so, you know, those are ideas that Wade has had, and he's really good at, you know, at his job. So there's all kinds of things we need to think about, but for sure, we've got to figure out how to fund our transportation, because it's the key to what we do in America and what makes us great. I'm an entrepreneur, so I depend on that, and I think every other business person does. So, thanks.
I'm Representative Jay McNamer. I'm a big supporter for transportation. The reason I support transportation, I come from probably the most rural district around here. We don't have mass transit. We don't have light rail, but we have our roads and highways, and that's what we depend upon to get around and move our product to market. I've been disappointed in the last 2 years because of underfunding of transportation. That's why this past year I carried a bonding bill for $54.3 million for local roads and highways. It's not enough. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we need about $2.5 billion a year to catch up where we need to be. We need to find funding for our transportation system, and I think we can do it. I got a plan. I don't know if it's going to work or not. And we can do it without raising taxes. And we can do it so it mirrors the economy. You don't have to build in inflation for it. If it mirrors the economy, when the economy does better, we have more money for transportation. If the economy doesn't do as well, we have less. That makes us accountable. We need to look at it. Thank you.
I'm Jared Leduc, candidate for Minnesota House 4B, and 2 kids outside of Glidden, lived there for quite some time. benefited greatly from that 336 Highway 10 interchange. You know, like Brian said, you learn something new every day. I've learned a lot being here. I'm glad I came. Transportation, it's important. Our infrastructure is important. I think that it's something that definitely needs our attention. I think we can do it, as previously mentioned, without raising taxes. I think that we can get more responsible about, as a state, how we're spending our money. Do we need almost $80 million for a new Senate office building when our roads and bridges are falling apart? I think the answer is no. I run a small business. I'm familiar with having to get creative, having to make cuts on things that don't matter as much for things that matter more. I think transportation, I think our infrastructure is definitely something that matters more, and we need to look at where we can reduce spending so that we can increase spending on our infrastructure. Thank you.
My name is Ben Lean. I'm the state representative for District 4A here in Moorhead, and so welcome everyone to Moorhead. Margaret, thank you for bringing your group back here this year. It's always a pleasure to talk transportation and everything, and taking a look at next year, absolutely 2015 is going to be the issue. Transportation is going to be the issue. It's going to be the transportation session, and I guess, you know, listening to some conversation here this evening, I kind of have three ideas that are kind of floating around in my head. First of all, we absolutely need to get more innovative. We need to get more creative in how we support, how we fund transportation. When you take a look at Forbes and CNBC and all their studies of states to do business and everything, Minnesota, one of the factors that puts Minnesota, you know, in the top 10 lately is that we have infrastructure, we have transportation, we have ways to move goods and services and commerce across the state. So absolutely, we need to, you know, continue to focus on that. Like I said, get more innovative with it. Second of all, I hear things about more inflationary ways or inflators to keep up with the cost of transportation. And I think back to both 2013 and 2014 when we attempted to put inflators into a local government aid. And that's something that I would like to continue working on, you know, not just local government aid, but also the county program aid, township aid, making sure that we're not continuing to put the burden on local governments, which then of course comes down to the property taxpayers, but we're really bellying up to the bar when it comes to state responsibility. And so, you know, those are just some thoughts I have. And then my third thought would also be, with Governor Dayton in town the last couple of days, there's been a lot of conversation about safe railways. And I've really brought rail infrastructure to that conversation. I know we did some things this last year to improve rail safety with some of the more volatile products, the North Dakota Bakken oil moving through Minnesota. And so I think a lot of that is rail infrastructure, and along with the safety. And I think with 2015 being a big transportation session, that really provides a good opportunity for us to take a look at some more ways to get rail infrastructure into the conversation. So thank you again.
I'm State Representative Bud Nornis. I live in Fergus Falls and represent the west half of Otter Tail County. I'm glad to be with you tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank MnDOT. They resurfaced Highway 78 from Battle Lake to Perham, which is my district, and they did a great job of what I'd like to thank them for is they were very responsive to issues and certain things that came up during that process. They were able to take care of it, and I think everyone wound up very happy about what it turned out to be, including the city or the town of Battle Lake, where downtown is something you all got to take a look at because it really turned out very nice. The other thing I was just thinking about, if you've been traveling in the Twin Cities this summer, you would probably not think there is a problem with funding transportation because there are some massive highway construction projects going on down there. Very large ones, very expensive ones, and when they're done, they will be very nice. So there is construction going on, but it doesn't benefit us here very much, which leads me to a suggestion, a little political, but it doesn't have to be. Both the chairs, both the policy chair and the finance chair of transportation, both live in the Twin Cities. I think in the next session, we ought to at least have one of those chairs represented by one of the representatives of rural Minnesota. To me, that's only fair. So I don't know if they understand what we need out here. I think if somebody lived out here and served on one of those committees, particularly the finance committee, I think that could make a difference. So that's one of my goals, regardless of who's in, whether it's Republican or Democrats. One of the things as we talk about raising revenue, to me, one of the somewhat painless ways to do it would be the tax. You know, one thing we remember Ventura for, he lowered them quite substantially. And if they were just changed a little bit, that, I don't know how much money to bring in, but I don't think most people would notice. I've got several vehicles, and $45 a year is what it costs to have those cars. And I could go to 50. I don't know about the rest of you, but, or 60, or whatever.
Well, it's an option.
Yeah. But I think that's, you know, the gas tax, the price of gas is very, I think that's the thing that really get people irritated. It's not long ago, it was over $4. In Fergus Falls today, it's $3.28. Alexandria today was $3.25. You're at $3.23 here. I mean, it's all over the place. But if it goes up again, so does people's, I mean, they find all kinds of ways not to drive it, not to buy it. So I think if we can keep the gas price or the gas tax somewhat stable and find other ways, I think that would be very beneficial. One more thing. It doesn't have much to do with gas taxes, but I'm a very strong proponent for raising speed limits. And I'm glad 59 has been raised to 60. What I would propose is as we raise the speed limits, we also raise the enforcement. Because now it's 60. You drive 60, people are still going to pass you. I had a truck today on the interstate chasing me to Moorhead, and he had to be doing 80. Now, there's a point where there's safety and all the other things involved. So, raising the speed limits, Highway 210, going to Bad Lakes, great road. People drive well over 60 already. So if we make it 60 and enforce it at 60, I think it's a win-win. So, there's my soapbox. Thank you very much.
Hi everybody, my name is David Sobieski and I am the candidate for District 2B, House Seat 2B in Minnesota. I've got 5 counties. I am a small business guy, I'm an Air Force veteran, I'm a father of 2 boys, John and Henry, hopefully home doing their homework, and a wife that'll let me in at the end of the day. So, all of those things inform how I feel about transportation as well as education and everything else. I feel strongly about investing in transportation. John Kennedy said that government's responsibility was to provide opportunity, and it was the people's responsibility to take advantage of that opportunity. When we have good farm-to-market roads, factory-to-market roads, people do better. We make an investment in our future. And having talked to a number of county engineers over the last few months, it's been brought home very clearly, very quickly, that we aren't keeping up. And by not keeping up, we're not honoring the investment that our parents and grandparents made to our infrastructure. And we're definitely not leaving a legacy for our own children. So I buy sewing machines to do projects, so I'll tool for a particular project. I'll ask Roger Peterson, my guy that I buy sewing machines from, in the cities, Roger, what is this sewing machine worth? Is it worth what I'm going to pay? First thing he says to me is, how much money are you going to make with it? I'll say, well. He goes, well then it's worth it. That's what it is with roads and bridges. We need to make that investment. We need to find a way to fund our future. We need to be a great people again, and the way we're going to do that is for me to be able to get from my door to your door down the street. So thank you for your time, and thank you that the road project on 59 will be done in 2 weeks, because I've got some great sign locations on 59.
That's an opportunity. Good evening, I'm Paul Martin, State Representative from District 4B, and my '03 Dodge Stratus is now at 302,000 miles. It's getting near the end, but it's been around, and so I'm on the roads quite a bit. And we know that Minnesota is done very well economically because of really 2 things that are always talked about. You know, we're a cold weather state, but yet economically we lead the Midwest, and we're one of the nation's leaders in economic growth. And it's always been because of education and infrastructure. And it's the roads are crucial. And I saw where MnDOT says we're gonna need about $12 billion in the next 20 years. That's $600 million a year. And I don't know for sure how we fund that. There's better minds than mine when it comes to transportation. But we, you know, when you, let's say the gas tax, when you look at that, that brings in about $32 million per cent. So if we're trying to get the $600 million, that'd take a 20-cent gas tax increase. That's not going to happen. So we, as others have mentioned, we have to be innovative on how we look at things. And just one other point when we talk about transportation, and not to repeat what others have said, but yesterday, as Representative Lee mentioned, when we had the railroad safety meeting, one thing that came up from a lot of cities, especially along Highway 10 and that, and a lot of them smaller cities, but apply to Moorhead too, is that you have a railroad running right through the middle of the city. And there are residents on one side and residents on the other side, and most of these communities only have one fire department, one police department, so forth. And those trains now, there's more of them, and rightfully so, they're moving slower because they've got the oil on them. They block and divide cities much larger. And I would think when we look at a transportation package, we also look at grade separations for some of these communities because it's a huge, huge safety issue. But thanks for coming up and thanks for this discussion.
Hi, I'm Jeff Backer, and I remember riding that vehicle of yours, and the fan didn't work. Remember that? When you were in Browns Valley?
Oh,
we were
driving.
It was high, so. I remember that, so you need a new vehicle. Oh, no. I'm from Browns Valley, Minnesota. I was past mayor of Browns Valley. If anybody remembered, in 2007, we had the flood, and I was mayor during that time, and we had transportation issues, not just because of that emergency, but when we did the diversion project. I'm running 12A, my opponent, Jay McNamer, so we're running in the same district. I'm a small business owner. As a small business owner, I prioritize things every single day. Served as mayor, currently I serve as school board, and it's really simple. I won't take too long. Transportation is a priority. You know, Browns Valley is right next to South Dakota, and if anybody knows about South Dakota, they are not known for good roads. We do have a better infrastructure in Minnesota, and that's a huge benefit. And we have to invest in that, because if we don't, then we're going to go wayside with other states and so forth. So transportation is very important, and that means that we have to prioritize it. Does that mean we cut other programs? Possibly. Do we find other funding sources? Possibly. But, you know, as government, we protect our citizens. We also have to provide the opportunity for our citizens who want to flourish. And without transportation, my business wouldn't have survived where I'm at, farmers wouldn't have survived, and 99%. We're internet heavy, but our business, but at the same time, we use a lot of transportation. So, thank you.